Hello, and welcome to my video about young journalists and future trends in the media. I talked to several experts in the local area, and here's what they had to say. Alright, so can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do for AIM and for younger people in Arlington?
Sure. My name is Kristen Clark. I'm the Community Engagement Director at Arlington Independent Media. I've been there for about a year. One of the things that I do as a Community Engagement Director is I'm really interested in meeting different communities that have voices that should be heard more in Arlington and figure out what stories they have to tell and how to connect with them more deeply to make sure that their ideas get out there in the world. So one of the things that I've been doing has been reaching out to so one of the main parts of my job right now actually is working with teenagers. So we've started this youth journalism initiative to get teenagers out in the community and actually doing real live journalistic reporting and storytelling.
My name is Ashton Roberts. I'm a production assistant here at Arlington Independent Media. I'm 22 years old.
Awesome. Alright, so what are the main things you do at AIM? What would you say your main job is or role?
So I'm just here to assist with any productions, radio or TV. Even some events, I'll be there as well to take photos, take video, just help out with setup or takedown. A lot of stuff.
Alright, so my name is Jackson Frederick. I'm an employee at AIM. My mom's actually the CEO, so that makes it easier. And I have experience in journalism, whether it's at school. I've taken multiple journalism. I've also worked at AIM. I worked over the summer, and I currently work now helping with different projects and stuff like that.
So my name is Vil Kearns. I'm 17. I'm a junior at Arlington Tech right now, and currently I'm in Arlington Independent Media's youth journalism internship, where we have about 5 to 6 people right now, and we meet twice a week, and we all have an individual project that we worked on where we decided to create a profile piece on a person in the community, and we all have been going through the video shooting, editing process together. I've definitely learned a lot that I never would have learned if I hadn't had the opportunity to be in contact with all these great people. The piece that I'm working on is about a drag queen named India Laurel Houston who operates in Adams Morgan at Perry's Drag Brunch, and we're just about finished with it, and I'm really excited with how it's turning out.
I am the CEO. I basically am the director or the executive of the organization. And gosh, that's a really funny question, but my job is to basically make sure that it's running well both internally and externally, that the organization has everything that it requires in order to be functioning, but also to thrive successfully. So that includes making sure that the facilities are good, making sure that I have the best team available. It's actually the opposite. It's making sure that I have an excellent team to ensure that we can really dig deep into what we're trying to provide to the community and get it done.
That's a good question. I think where I'm working right now is interesting. Community media has been dying for quite some time now, and it is kind of on its last legs. So I think that we're at an interesting crossroad where community media can either be like promoted again as like a staple of, telling your story and getting your story out into the world, or it could be something that's a relic of the past. So there's that, but also I think, especially with technology, media is changing so much. The capabilities are growing so much every year that it feels like you can never catch up almost. Like there's so much to learn, and there's going to keep on being a lot to learn.
What are some of the trends you've noticed in journalism?
Definitely a lot of misinformation has been flying around. It's once you bring in Gen Z, who has a non-existent attention span, and the only way to convey any information is to have it in like a 10-second clip, your potential for like conveying meaningful stories really like drops to zero. And so it's so hard to spread information in an engaging way that really lets people know the complexity of issues. I also think that that's a really big thing that's happening right now, that everything is really simplified and people will take these really complex issues and put them into like bite-sized pieces that people can consume in a second, when that doesn't give you the whole scope of what's going on. And that's where so many of the misunderstandings in the news and like national stories and things like gun violence and abortion go wrong, is because people can't understand the full scope of what's going on with.
It's an exciting time to really dig deep into what's most important to me, and it's human rights. I'm a human rights attorney by trade, and this is my first foray into media, but I'm really hoping to use media to dismantle systemic oppression against those who have been marginalized in our community and nationally.
And speaking of some of the struggle for minorities, how has your experience been as a Black woman in media?
Well, it's interesting. It's there's the intersectionality, right, of being both a Black American and being a woman. I also have a unique perspective. I'm a petite person, and so even though I'm 50 years old, so I'm a middle-aged woman, oftentimes just based on my stature and some nice genes, thank you to my parents, I'm also oftentimes assumed to be a lot younger than I am, and so people have a way of talking to me and looking at me that is not just, it's one of those things where I'm not necessarily aware, is it like, well, are they speaking to me that way because I'm Black? Are they speaking to me that way because I'm a woman? Are they speaking to me that way because they think I'm someone who's under the age of 30? But there is a type of fight for respect that I've realized that I've just gotten naturally attuned to. Media is not that different from law. And obviously there's a lot of pushback in terms of sexism, ageism, all the isms, certainly racism in both law and media. But what I've also realized, interestingly enough, is my ability to cope with being a petite, young Black woman has been to speak up for myself anyway, which is why this job really speaks to me. Giving people the opportunity to say your voice matters, your story matters, and actually we're prioritizing those voices of people who've been squashed in the past.
Journalism has been in a really interesting transition mode for the last 20 years, and a scary transition mode for a lot of people. We used to have really robust set of newspapers, local newspapers all over the country, where people were, that were really deeply embedded in the community, local journalists who had all of these like contacts and knew what was going on and lived in the place they were reporting on. And basically that effectively doesn't exist anymore. I think social media is a really interesting and cool tool that can be used for news gathering, that can be used for sharing really important information. And in a lot of ways, it's given people a really useful platform, like everyday people, to talk about issues that they care about and things that they're dealing with in their life. A major problem with social media is that the business model that's underneath it is based on clicks and based on view counts and things like that. So that's always going to prioritize things that are super divisive, that make people angry, that are kind of clickbaity, and it's always going to be cheaper to invest in that sort of coverage and promote that sort of coverage and keep people on the apps than it is to give them actual substance. And so it's sort of a problem with the basic model. It's not a problem with the tool itself, like user-generated content, but it's a problem with the basic structures underneath it. But again, I don't think that's a social media problem. I think that's the same problem that is affecting journalism generally. Even at major publications, they're completely dependent on eyeballs and clickbait and things like that, which is why we steer toward these divisive national politics issues and, treat elections like they're horse races rather than talking about substantive issues in those elections.
Honestly, something I've noticed is the rise of technology and social medias, right? I noticed that I'll just be scrolling. I'll be on my phone. I'll pick up my phone for no reason and just start scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, and all of that comes through media and journalism and stuff like that. So, journalism is an important factor, and even though many people don't realize it, it's in our everyday lives, the spread of information, the spread of entertainment.
So my first rule of advice is to build your confidence, believe in yourself. Perfectionism is unattainable as human beings. We're all going to fail to a certain extent, but I believe it was Nelson Mandela who said something that I was just saying to my sons: I never lose, I either win or I learn. And I think that that's a really good way of looking at it. You have to make mistakes in order to grow, and you have to have the confidence to understand that you will make mistakes and to learn from them anyway and keep your ego in check. And along with keeping the ego in check, when you have self-confidence, your ego is naturally comfortable and confident with who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at. So your strengths and the challenges that you may have, because again, we have all of them. But to dig in deep into not just your weaknesses and not just trying to build yourself and get better at the things that are actually the hardest for you. That's something that Michael Jordan did. But to also make sure that you know that you will never know more than other people, that the goal and the joy is learning from other people. So to open yourself up, understand your own biases, understand where you're coming from and how someone else may have a completely different perspective. Always assume that you don't know everything, and that allows you to really hear other people's stories and grow and become even more involved in the richness of the community. And again, we're in a super diverse community and certainly in a diverse world.
Whenever you meet somebody, always keep a smile on your face, and just realize that anybody you meet, you'll probably meet them again. So don't do anybody wrong. Make friends. It's definitely, like we've been saying the whole time, instead like who you know business. Absolutely. So the more people you can get on your side, and the more people who are able to tell your story and tell it truthfully and give good recommendations to you, then you'll be on top of the world before you get home.
I say, I don't know, don't really sweat it. I mean, journalism, there's a lot of different things about journalism. Like, it can be fun. I mean, I got into it. I started doing it because of like watching YouTube and all that, and so I just wanted to have a platform to spread my message, entertain people, inform people.
What is some advice you'd have for young people trying to aspire in journalism like yourself?
I think that finding a story that you want to tell is really interesting. Is really interesting. It's really good. Because there's a million things going on in this world that you just have to find something that you love.
So what I would say to a young person that's interested in journalism is absolutely get in there. It is one of the most satisfying careers you could possibly imagine. Building a career out of asking questions that fascinate you and meeting people that you otherwise wouldn't get the chance to talk to. There's nothing better than that.
Thanks for watching. The best of luck to every aspiring journalist out there.